What is your creepy unexplained childhood experience? Lying in bed one night, it's pitch black apart from the light creeping under the door from the landing. My mom was actually with me in the same room as we had only just moved in and she was sleeping on the floor. I look up and the door slowly creaks open and slowly an oldish woman peers around the door, looks at me and goes away. I just thought I was in a nightmare and turned around real fast and went under the covers, hoping I would wake up. Then I will never forget my mom whispering to me, "Did you just see someone peer around the door?" Safe to say we didn't sleep a wink that night. When I was younger, no idea how old, I had a dream that my aunt came to visit me. I was named after her husband who died a few months before I was born, so she always loved me. So after the dream I went into my parents' room and told them that Aunt Liz came to see me and she told me to say goodbye. A few hours later they got the call that she had passed away. A few years later my grandfather's friend Mary got brain cancer and she lost her ability to speak and her face was paralyzed. The last time I saw her I told my mom I just wanted to see her smile one more time. A few nights later I had a dream where she was smiling at me. Few hours later, parents got a call that she had passed. When I was 11-12 I had a dream my dad died. He was pooping bricks for weeks. 14 years later he's still alive though. My sister and I were having a prank war for like a week straight. Well, we agreed to a ceasefire since my birthday was in 2 days. I just turned 11, and later that night I hear my closet door open. Oh, so my sister wants to prank me on my special day, eh? I'll show her, I thought. So I know she snuck in and forgot my door squeaks. So I had an idea, I would get up and push her. Ha 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 ha, I'm a genius kiddo. So I slowly get up and she steps out of the closet. Wasn't my sister, because my sister doesn't have long black hair and scars on her face and isn't as tall as a grown woman. I wanted to scream, but instead I just froze and silently started whimpering and crying. She puts her finger up to her lips and lets out a shh and opens my window and crawls out, slowly closed my window never to be seen again. At first I thought it was a ghost. Now I'm convinced it was a crackhead or something. Not really creepy, but it bothers me still because WTF. Me and my friend were hitting each other with pillowcases. Why? We swung at each other, both hold tightly onto our cases. We hit each other simultaneously and at the end of the swing we look at our hands and we're holding each other's cases. They just switched. Neither of us left like anything was ripped from our hands or that there was any exchange or anything. They were just suddenly swapped. I have no idea how it happened, it doesn't make any sense. If I could see a recording of anything in my life, it would be that moment. When I was a kid, I remember waking up in this room with my mom holding me down and this older Somali lady, and I remember that I was screaming and crying the whole time, and I remember peeing blood the days after that memory and being in pain. But that's all I remember. My mom said that it never happened, but I know something did. I lived in Kenya and my mom was always gung-ho about FGM, but my dad refused to go along with it. Also the fact that I have little to no memories of my life before the age of 14. When I was very young, I had very vivid memories and nightmares of what I now know to be the Vietnam War. They stopped by the time I was 8. Not really unexplained, but it's the best I've got. I was walking around in the pitch dark one night because I couldn't sleep and decided to watch TV in my living room. As I was trying to find the lamp switch, I suddenly heard a weird noise from across the room. I remember thinking to myself, what the hell is in the room that could make that noise? Because I had no idea how to describe to myself what my ears had just heard. My mind rushed through all the objects that were in the living room that make noise, but I still couldn't piece it together. I sat there for like 5 minutes before my fear subsided enough that I could move without feeling like I would be immediately eviscerated by some demon in the darkness. Turned on my TV and looked around, but couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. A few days later I'm walking around the house and I hear it again. I walk out to the living room and I see a fine mist in the sunlight, falling from the top shelf of the bookcase. I finally put one and one together and realized it was a freaking Febreze spritzer with a timer that lets out a spray every 12 hours, which my mom had bought just the day before. I had spent 5 minutes in sheer terror, sure I was about to die, over Febreze. When I was a kid, my dad would take us to a giant lake, with a big sandy shore, like a landlocked beach for hillbillies. I was wading in the shallow end, when I felt something brush through my fingers. Being 7, and wishing it was a real beach, I thought, maybe these are sea plants. Then realized that was stupid. As I squeezed the tendrils that were brushing my hand, they squished and sunk, and I felt bones through the soft, squishy mass. Finger bones like I was holding the hand of a child my age. I got out of the water, sat on the shore, and told no one. Year later, my sister said she thought a boy had been kicking her under the water, but when she grabbed at the foot, it felt cold and squishy, and she also told no one. When I was about 12, I went through a sort of religious mania phase. I read the Bible daily, fretted constantly about sin and redemption, and would even hold my hands under boiling water if I thought I'd sinned. I was also scared of the supernatural, so my bedroom was covered with crosses made out of Lincoln logs and scratched into the wallpaper. I can only imagine what my parents made of it all. One day, I was sitting on the toilet, doing what you do, when I glanced out the window and saw a cat crossing our backyard, 2 floors down. I thought to myself, if God's real, that cat will look up at me right now. I didn't touch the window or make a sound, but at that moment, the cat looked up, directly at the window I was peering out of. Oddly, even then, I was like, dang, that's a coincidence. TL, doctor, God was watching me poop. Back in the 90s, before we even had a computer to use the internet, my sister and I had a Super Nintendo, and a bunch of friends came over at night to play Donkey Kong. One of our friends knew the secret code you input on the start menu to get 99 lives. Our friend gloated over us that he wouldn't tell us the code. The next morning, my sister wakes up and is so excited. I remember this because I was awake already. She immediately turns on the game and enters the code, and voila, the code works. She said she had a dream where Donkey Kong told her the code. Not so much creepy as it is kinda awesome. Late to the party, so no one will probably see this, but whatever, here's my part. So when I was little in my first house, it was a normal day, nothing too unusual happening. However, when it got to nighttime, my dad decided that he wanted to sleep in my bed with me. Now this was strange, as he had his own bed and had never even thought about sleeping with me. So he does, and eventually in the night, I am on the outside of the bed and he's on the inside. I feel something grab me and I land on the floor, and I open my eyes, and under the bed there are 2 glowing red eyes staring back at me. My dad immediately grabs me and lifts me up and puts me on the inside, and not another word is said. I'll never forget that night though, and thinking about if something would have happened had he not slept with me. When I was younger, I used to think I was having dreams of an old woman in a blue dress and cat-eye glasses sitting at the end of my bed singing to me. She'd always sing the same song and then leave. One night I followed her into my brother's room. He is younger than me and was around 5. Instead of singing to him, he woke up and they began talking. After like 20 minutes, my mother came in and asked what we were doing. My brother said, "I'm just talking to the lady in the blue dress. She made us go back to bed." I woke up still thinking it was a dream. My mom told me the next morning she didn't want me sneaking out of bed anymore in the middle of the night to play with my brother. I asked her what she was talking about and she gave me her version of what she saw the night before. Oh, this day I believed that was real and that every night that old woman would sing to me. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. She stopped singing to me soon after that, though people in my family still caught my brother speaking to nothing on numerous occasions. A while later an aunt came to visit from down south and refused to come into our house after seeing an old woman in cat glasses standing in the upstairs window. She came in asking who was upstairs, then freaked out when my mother told her no one and let her search the house. When I was around 7, I was lying down on my bed with a recorder in hand. Then my hand with the recorder suddenly closed and the recorder was gone. Never found it again. RIP recorder.